everybody. This is Rustin Rose with Access Entertainment and Metalholic Magazine. Joining us tonight, the man himself, Frank Dimino. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. Thanks for asking me, Rustin.
Absolutely. So how is everything in the world of Frank Dimino?
Everything's going good. I'm right now we're working on the show. We got a show coming up at the Whiskey on October 21st. So I'm starting to get into rehearsals for that, and at the same time, starting to write for the a new album started writing with Paul Crook. So we're getting that underway as well. So everything's moving along.
Well, you just answered two questions for me right there. Is there going to be another album, and are you actually going to do some live dates?
Yeah. Wow, that was quick, huh? Yeah, I went out to dinner with Paul a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about it, and decided that we had some material that we were working on. So I said, well, maybe we got another album we can do. So I think we're going to move forward with doing another album, and as far as the Whiskey, yeah, that date just came up, so I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll do a few more dates after that, depending on how the promoters want to buy the show. So we'll see what happens.
Nice. Well, let's talk about the first album. You released it about a year ago. First solo record. Right. Old Habits Die Hard. What took so long?
Well, I think when Ken Ciancimino, a friend of mine, came up to me and asked me, he said, "Why don't you do a solo album?" My first thought was, I'm used to working with a band within the band context. So, I've been doing a lot. I've been doing a lot of stuff, playing around here in Vegas. Have a local band here with Oz Fox called Vinyl Tattoo, and I'm teaching, so I'm keeping myself busy, and I do studio work. So I hadn't really thought about it until Ken brought it up to me, and then the more I thought about it, I thought, well, maybe instead of writing within the context of a band, it might free me up a little. So I decided to move forward with it. So he said, okay, let me call Serafino from Frontiers, and we got together with Serafino. I played him one track. I played him Even Now. That was the song that Barry and I had written. And he loved it, and he said, let's move forward. So from that point on, moving forward with it, I decided that instead of using any old material, I would use Even Now, but everything else was going to be all written new for the solo album. So the approach was to write just good songs instead of having to write within the context of anything. Between Oz Fox and myself and Jeff Lubansky, we just sat down and just started to write really good songs. And out came Old Habits Die Hard.
And the album title seems so somewhat poetic and appropriate.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought putting my mic stand on the cover would just put a punctuation mark on the title of the album.
So, and you did, as you sort of alluded to, you have this stellar all-star cast to some degree on the album. I mean, first off, the amazing Paul Crook, who such an underrated guitar player, fantastic producer and everything. And then
absolutely
Eddie Oeda is on there, Ricky Medlock, and of course your buddy Oz Fox. Yeah, so you had all these great people on the album.
Pat Thrall, great guitar player, man.
Right.
Great guitar player.
So how did you sort of pull all these players together and make it sort of cohesive on the record?
Yeah, well, I think the approach for the record was when I talked to Paul, I really wanted to have the bed tracks done by the same bass player and same drummer, so it didn't sound like it was like 6 or 7 different bands. I said let's put the rhythm track. Let's use the same guys for the rhythm tracks, and then we'll put the rest of the stuff on top of it. But my intention was to have between Paul, Oz, and Jeff play all the guitars. When I first moved forward with it, I didn't plan on having a lot of guest stars on it. It just kind of happened that way. When we started to work on the album and putting the vocals down, when we got to the guitar solos, Never Again was a song that Oz and I wrote, and we were talking about it sounding a little bit like an Angel tune. So Oz said to me, wouldn't it be great if we get Punky to play on it? I said, I don't think that would be a problem. So I called Punky up, and he said, of course, I'll play on it. So we sent him the track, and he put the solo down and sent it back to us. And the same thing happened with a lot of different songs. Like with Eddie, he happened to be in town, and he at the time he was in L.A. for the NAMM convention, I think it was, and he was coming to Vegas, and he called Paul and myself and said, "What's going on?" And Paul had told him that he was working on my solo album, so Eddie called me and asked me if he could come down and hear it. I said, "Of course, come on down." So he came down, and we played some stuff for him, and I asked him, I said, "Would you like to play on it?" He said, "Yeah, I'd love to play a song on it." So we gave him a song, and he did a solo on Tonight's the Night, I think he played on, and so on. And the same thing with Ricky. We were looking for a slide guitar solo. I mean, I thought that song really needed a slide guitar, so we put some slide rhythm stuff going on. And I said, I think it really needs a slide solo. So Ken said, let me call Ricky. So I said, of course, that would be great. So Ricky found the time to do it between doing Blackfoot and Lynyrd Skynyrd. I didn't know if he was going to be able to do it in time, but he found the time to do it and put a great solo on it. And of course, the best for last was Pat Thrall. Pat's been involved with Pat was involved with the solo album while we were doing it and before we were doing it. He's a good friend, and we always went to Pat for fresh ears whenever Paul and I got stuck, or our ears were too loaded up with stuff going on. So Pat was always there to help us out with that stuff. And he asked, he said, "Please let me play on a couple of tracks or whatever you got." So I said, "Of course." And Stones by the River I thought was the best thing for him, so we sent it to him and he said, "Yeah, I'll play on that one. That sounds great." And he sent us back a great solo for that. In fact, it was so good I thought, let's end the record with that song. So
yeah, the whole album is fantastic, and you got a chance to write for yourself this time. Like you said, it wasn't for a band; it was for you. So tell us about the record from your perspective, sonically and lyrically.
Well, Paul and I spent a lot of time to get it right sonically. I wanted the sound to be right, and Paul put in a numerous amount of hours just getting everything right sonically and everything sounding correctly. And he also found Mayor Applebaum who mastered it. Right. He did a great job as well. So, and from my perspective, when we first approached writing for the album, I think between Jeff, Oz, and myself, we kind of like checked our egos at the door and said, let's just kind of sit down and spend some time and try and write some good songs. And I didn't know how it was going to end up at first with Jeff, because I hadn't seen Jeff in a while. And once he came back into town, we sat down at my place, and I have a music room here where I teach. And we just started screwing around, and it went so quickly and went so easily. It went right back to where it was before. So yeah, that went great. And of course, Oz and I have been kind of playing around with each other in Vinyl Tattoo for a while. So it was a great experience to sit down and write for the album, which was a lot different than writing for a band.
As we said, this came out last year, because you're already talking about maybe the second album. Now that you've had more than a year to live with it, does the record feel the same to you? Or has your view of it changed? Or
well, it was it was very exciting when it first came out, because we put a lot of time and effort into it, and a lot of hard work into it. So it was really it felt great when it was done. And I look back on it now, and I'm really happy with the you get so close to it. There's always things here and there that you wish you could go back and just tweak a little bit here and there. But overall, I think the whole album is. I'm very happy with the way it turned out.
And gives you some ideas and whatnot for what's to do and what not to do with the second one, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we'll probably do it the same approach for the second one, as far as no limitations on where we want to go as far as direction. I think we'll just see where the writing takes us and follow it.
Fantastic. You have such an incredible voice, and it's such a unique voice. I'm surprised, especially with the work that you've done there in Vegas with the Rock Vault. You played with our friends in Sin City Sinners, Vinyl Tattoo, as you said, with Oz, that you've never actually done an album of covers, because your voice would just bring so many classic songs to life.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I did do After we finished the album, Paul and I screwed around a little bit, and we did a version of Dazed and Confused, and it's on YouTube. He has a company called Devil Star, and I think if you put in Devil Star and Frank Dimino, it'll pop up. But we were going to just put it out there, do maybe the whole first Zeppelin album, but we did Dazed and Confused, and we had a lot of fun doing it. But now it's just a matter of getting the time to do it, to do the rest of the stuff. I don't know if we'll get to it, but it was fun doing that song.
Now, of course, I can't talk to Frank Dimino and not talk about your celebrated past. Last year, Angel celebrated its 40th anniversary, so to speak. You guys had a whirlwind 5 years or so with 5 studio albums and a live record, all in a very short, condensed period. Then, of course, the music scene changed drastically. What stands out for you the most about that whole era?
I think that we really went into it knowing what we wanted to do when we first started the whole thing. We had some ideas, and we wanted to approach it a little bit differently. We wanted to really work in guitars and synthesizers so that they work together, incorporate them together, and also to create the show. I think it was, especially at that time, it was a bold move. I think the way we approached the show and the kind of show that we had. It was illusions to begin the show and to end the show, and also in the middle of the show. And then we also had the logo that we had a 10-foot logo that we used to rise behind us, open its eyes, and would talk to the audience. So, the whole approach and being able to be successful doing it is really the thing that I feel most proud about.
I never understood why Angel didn't sort of explode more as your counterparts on the label Kiss did, because it was Gene Simmons, I believe, that originally was pumping you guys up to Casablanca. I'm surprised you guys never actually, at least to my knowledge, never actually toured together.
No, we never toured together. We never played together. Yeah. I don't know. There's a million different reasons why bands, are successful worldwide and why other bands aren't. I don't. If I knew what the answer was, then we would have been, widely successful. But I think that the success comes in being able to do what we did and being able to headline lots of places and play to a lot of people and reach a lot of people, and to do 5 studio albums and a double live album. I think that, career-wise, when you first start, you think, you do one album and it's great. To be able to do 6 albums, I think we had a pretty good run.
Absolutely. You think about it. Back then, bands weren't. A band going 9-10 years was a huge deal. So putting out 4 or 5 albums was an entire career. Who knew it would become what it has? But does it surprise you that after 35 years, after you initially sort of hung it up as Angel, that the band still maintains such a large and loyal cult following?
It surprised me, but it's a nice surprise. I think that, Facebook might have had a lot to do with the fact that, people that didn't know each other were able to reach out to each other with, the common thread of Angel, being the one thing that they had in common. So I think that whole thing, the Facebook thing, really kind of helped out a lot. And and it's kind of nice to get through to a lot of people and to see that a lot of people are still out there.
And of course, you just did the video for Never Again, the single that leads off the album. And sort of bringing it all full circle, that's the song that you had Punky on, and you had him for the video. And that's a nice touch for all of it, for the album, for the old Angel fans, tying it all together. And
it all happened too, while we were doing the award, receiving the awards, it was almost right around the same time we were doing the video, filming the video. So it all tied in very nicely.
Absolutely. All right. So before we get out of here, with your new album, with everything that's been going on, there's a resurgence for Frank Dimino, resurgence for a lot of the Angel stuff, but there's a lot of people out there who missed out on Angel back in the day. If you were to pick one album from the Angel catalog to sort of initiate somebody who was new, which album would you tell them to start with?
I have no idea. I mean, I'm so close to all those. I mean, you know, I really, I still have a strong. I love the first album, and I have a strong attraction to the fourth album. I mean, you know, so those. It's like the first album was the beginning, and the fourth album was like the transition. You know, you know, the fourth album had some great songwriting on it, and the first album had some really great band moments on that. You know, we did that album in I think 2 weeks. It was like 11 or 12 days because we were so well rehearsed with that first album, those songs, because playing them in the clubs and then rehearsing every day, you know, to getting tighter and arranging them and stuff. So yeah, the first album is very close to me, and but all the albums, I don't think I could pick an album that's my most favorite, but I think 1 and 4 are the, you know, are 1 and 1A, if that's possible.
The most indicative of who Angel truly is as a whole, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Frank, thanks so much for taking some time to talk with us. I truly appreciate it. I'm having a lot of fun
Absolutely.
Going back and re-listening to the old albums again, too. And of course, your solo album is fantastic as well. I look forward to the second album. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk again then.
That would be great. Where are you at?
These days, I live in Boise, Idaho, but I grew up on the West Coast. But my entire family's from back east. And it's funny.
Really?
That's one of the questions that I always like to ask bands that came from back east is, you know, because there's such a different vibe being out west versus being back east in terms of music and the feel and everything.
It really is, yeah.
I was like, how does a guy who, you know, was from Massachusetts, had a band based out of the East Coast over there, end up in Vegas, you know?
Pretty crazy.
Absolutely. All right. Well, it was an honor to get a chance to meet you after all this time, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk again.
That would be great. Thanks for having me, Rustin.
Take care, Frank.